the approach that we have had with USAID and the other things like the President's Initiative on AIDS, how does our U.S. approach compare and contrast to the approach of Russia in Africa and also Communist China in Africa?
Oh, Chairman, we've always had the lead. So what you're seeing in those two competitors or challengers, they're following in our wake. They see what works as far as our influence in deepening partnerships through those soft powers, whether it be health diplomacy or whether it be in development type programs. So they're following in our wake, trying to replicate what we do best. And I think the African countries know this, and so this is where, as we start to look at going forward, as State Department starts to reset these programs, looking at what worked and what didn't work, and doubling down on what does work. I think we have enough capital built up in these countries for them to ensure their stabilization and also prosperity. The other two competitors are just trying to replicate what we do best.
I can imagine a situation, though, in which the ruling elite of a country is receiving gratuities on the side that inure to the benefit of the strongman leader and not to the populace of the country. Does that sort of corruption and bribery go on with regard to the Belt and Road?
Absolutely, Chairman. I see this, and I don't mind calling them out, but Captain Traore and Burkina Faso, as they know that both, whether it's their gold reserves, that is all those proceeds are just in exchange to protect the junta regime. There's a number of examples across. Even in Sudan, what's going on with the rapid support forces and Burhan of the Sudan forces, when you get down to it, is all about the revenue that can be drawn out of that. And there are nefarious actors in the CCP or in sometimes Russia are complicit in those activities.
Okay, well, you can't imagine how frustrating it seems to me that this mineral-rich continent has not been able to move to a utilization of the resources to benefit the people there. After all this time, it's a puzzle that we haven't unwound. Let me see if I can move to General Cavoli, and then I hope we can leave. You're aware of various voices coming from inside government here in the United States, as well as in the media, that have spoken with approval about the Russian organized referendums in 2022 in so-called overwhelming Russian-speaking provinces. General Cavoli, tell us what you know and what you understand about the freedom of those organized referendums and the accuracy of them as a measure of public opinion.
Sure, Mr. Chairman. I don't think I'm familiar with the voices in Washington that are talking about this, but I do remember them very well. They were referendums in Lugansk, Donetsk, Zaporizhia, and Kherson provinces. They were in September 2022. They were roundly condemned by nations throughout the world and by international organizations. The Organization for Security and Cooperation in Europe called them illegitimate. The United Nations called them illegal. I think the only country in the world that accepted the result of those referenda, other than Russia, was North Korea. So they have widely been considered not to be legitimate for a variety of reasons about the way they took place and taking place during a conflict by an occupying power.
So if members of Congress want to be informed by what happened in these referenda, if our negotiators in this peace process want to be informed by these referenda, what lesson should we take from the legitimacy of those votes?
Sir, I think that anybody who wants to know about it, it's pretty well established history. It's pretty easy to find. I could certainly help direct your colleagues or anybody you want to sources on it. What conclusions can we draw? We can draw the conclusion that, you know, the Russian Federation was intent on absorbing those provinces and attempted to put a gloss of legitimacy over it by holding a referenda that had, you know, results like 99% in favor.
Rigged results, correct?
That was the widespread conclusion at the time in 2022. Yes, sir.
And also, since you are a student of the Russian language yourself, is the fact that the Russian language is spoken in part of Ukraine, is that demonstrative of their loyalty with regard to their nationality?
Well, we see linguistic minorities in countries all over the world, sir. There certainly is a dominant Russian language population in eastern Ukraine. We see a Russian language population in eastern Estonia. So it's
they consider themselves loyal Estonians, do they not?
Yeah, it really doesn't have much to do with sovereignty at all. I mean, we have large populations in our country that don't speak English.
That's the point I was trying to make. Senator Reed, we'll be going into a closed session. Do you have any questions for the open session?
I have a few questions, and thank you, Mr. Chairman. General Cavoli, in your military opinion, does the U.S. agreement with Denmark to facilitate access and basing needs in Greenland meet current military requirements?
Sir, I can only talk about the part of the military requirements that affect me. So our principal presence on Greenland, the United States personal presence on Greenland, is the base at Pitufik in northwestern Greenland. That is not under my operational or administrative control. That's a Space Force base, and I don't know if it's adequate for them or not. From my perspective, as both the Supreme Allied Commander and the U.S. European Command Commander, I have all the access and basing I need to prosecute the operations that we've talked about in the High North during this.
So that, from your perspective, European Greenland, just to get the facts right, is within your area of operations.
Greenland is within my area of operations as the Supreme Allied Commander, and it is within my area of operations as the U.S. European Command Commander.
And you feel at this juncture we have all the capacity we need to confront the threats going forward?
Yeah, again, Senator, my part of that is what I can comment on. That's from the coast of Greenland eastward and northward to counter Russian threats coming out of there. I can't really speak for Northcom's interests or anything like that.
Thank you.